You've done a lot of work to build a rock star team. You said depending on when in the year before the show, you were saying 150 to 300 team members.
Yeah, depending on seasonality and contracts under management, all that. Yes, anywhere in that range.
Huge team, 4 years in. I mean, that could be a total zoo if you didn't have core values and culture.
It has been at times, yeah.
And I imagine at times, but it stands out to me, and just kind of learning about what you guys do, the team loves being there, and you guys have really built something special. And what might be perceived as, I mean, you said it's the oldest industry on the planet, right? It kind of it's predictable. It's just a job. It's a bunch of blue collar guys. They just come to work and punch a clock, but not at your company. How did you design that?
Yeah, and that's one of the lessons I'm learning right now. We have gone through phases where the culture has been amazing and people are on fire. And then we've gone through valleys, dry seasons where, you see a couple key people quit, or we fire a couple key people for XYZ reasons and the team starts to get down. I mentioned we just started a new office out in Salt Lake. So now the team is split. We just divided the company in two, so to speak. And so there's all this, back and forth with, communication. And so it's one of the lessons I'm learning right now. It's so easy to forget who we are and what is our purpose. And really, I mean, a heart for people is a core value of ours. And if we forget for a week or 2 weeks or a month that heart for people thing, it's crazy how quickly the culture can change. And that's the lesson I think that I'm learning now. And so a lot of that comes with communication. I know a lot of companies have felt it with COVID, working via Zoom and Microsoft Teams, right? You don't feel connected to a person. And so that, interpersonal relationships start to fizzle out. And then when some conflict comes in, the business environment, people are quicker to go at each other, right? I really think it's my job as the guy, the CEO, the founder with the big vision to keep our team all pulling the same direction. It's super easy for people to get isolated and think about their priorities for their role and not the priorities or the big picture of the company. Somebody's got to bring everyone back down to earth and say, hey guys, this is where we're going together. This is what we're doing. But culture is not, there's no magic recipe. Early on, I wanted to make all the people the heroes of our story. We did that for a year or two. It was amazing, some amazing content. Then you see some people leave and it's like, wait a second, that hero of the story is now gone and there's somewhere. Yeah, so there's some weirdness about that, but there's no secret recipe with culture. Treat people well, be a good human being, surround yourself with good human beings, be a good example, right? Like if I was a phony, you can only hide it for so long. The truth is going to come out. If we have a bunch of phonies on our team, the truth is going to come out. So I'm really focused on good human beings who can come onto our team and pour into other people. If they're just a good human being and they just stay right there in their lane and they never pour into anybody, the whole team, is not rising all at the same time.
I like what you said about not being a phony. As leaders, we really have to model our values. Our values have to be our actual values. I've always said if your implicit values are different than your explicit values, then you're building a house of cards. It's going to crumble. And there's plenty of leaders that have done the exercise of, okay, we're going to get core values and we put them on the wall, but then internally they're not living that way.
Yeah.
And what the team follows is what you do, not what you say. Mm-hmm. And when they're watching you yell at the vendor and cuss somebody out, but then on the core values on the wall, it says, we treat people kindly or whatever, they're going, I know what our real values are.
Yeah.
You can't be phony about this stuff.
Well, and it's so much harder than most people realize, right? Like I think back, now as the lens of an owner, I think back to when I was an employee and how cynical I was. Like, well, that company says they care. They don't care, right? But now you sit on the owner's side and you realize how hard it is to keep every single person happy and to show every single person you care, but to also mix in the right amount of accountability, right? And are we achieving the right goals? And when we don't achieve those goals, what happens? Like A lot of days I think of myself as the plate spinners, the people that spin all these plates and one falls and 3 or 4 more fall off, It's not as easy as just writing core values on the wall. You really have to exemplify them, and people aren't always going to see it, right? Like we've sent some people away, but paid them very well to go away because we wanted to send them on to their next thing in a loving, professional way, a way that we could feel good about. No one's going to see that. They're not going to see the number. They're not going to hear about it. We don't talk about it on a podcast, So there's a lot that happens as the owner that most people aren't going to see and understand. And sometimes that's okay.
How do you, as the owner, 300 employees, now you're split. You mentioned Zoom and how we're all disconnected now. How do you take something like this value of a heart for people and actually keep it alive in the hearts and minds of your team members?
Man, it's a challenge. On my worst days in business, I stop and try to think about, what am I actually doing? What needle are we trying to move, and where are we trying to move it to? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, the mundane, right? Super legit guy gets frustrated at really legit girl for XYZ reasons, right? And you want to have a heart for both of them, because neither one of them might be wrong, but they're telling themselves a different story, and so there's friction within the company. I really try to take a one-on-one approach with folks, and it doesn't always work, but sitting down and almost being the peacemaker or the peacekeeper, and instilling into everyone, what are we actually doing? Oh, wait a second. We are all on the same team. We do want the same thing. You guys are talking past each other. You want one thing over here that sounds different in your brain than this guy, but we're all on the same team. We all want to go win this contract or execute this thing well. People forget that, especially once they get into a rut and they're isolated and they're not working shoulder to shoulder. It's so crazy, and you've probably experienced this. When you're shoulder to shoulder with someone in an office, when there's friction, you kind of hash it out right there. Right, it's only going to fester for so long before the tension in the room kind of gets the best of everybody, and we're like, let's just stop, get this over with. When it's via Zoom or Slack or Microsoft Teams, it can go on for a long time, and people can start having their own conversations in back channels, and it starts to really permeate through the company. So, again, I think it's reminding the team, what is the mission, what is the vision. What are our core values? Having a heart for people was not a core value by mistake. We didn't list it just to put something on the wall. We want to live it.